Welcome to another edition of In Focus. I'm your host and Arlington Community Schools Superintendent Tammy Mason. On today's In Focus, we'll talk about a serious issue that's affecting all school districts and communities across the nation, and that's teen vaping. It's easy to conceal, it's nearly impossible to detect, and in most cases, teenagers are buying or getting them secondhanded without knowing where they came from or ingredients that's in them. Joining me today to discuss this issue is Dr. Constance Certion, the Social and Transition Specialist here at Arlington High School. Thank you for joining me, Constance.
Thank you for having me.
I have a few questions for you today. The first one, tell me about your role here at the high school and how do you support not only students but parents as well?
Okay, so my role here at the high school is to provide support for students and families. A lot of times my work involves me helping students who are experiencing some type of transition in their life or some type dealing with social, emotional, mental health issues. And so not only does my support oftentimes involve the student, but sometimes it includes the family. I may assist that family with getting access to resources that they might need, whether that means an outside referral for some type of support, either mental health or some needs that they may have within their household. It could be housing or transportation. So really my role allows me to provide wraparound services for families. And I work in collaboration with the school counselors and the administrators and district personnel to make sure that we're able to meet those needs.
Yeah, it's certainly not a one-size-fits-all position,
Not
is
at
it?
all. Not at all.
And it takes you to a variety of places. You only work here in the school, but also in the homes of families if they need that, as well as other resources that you say with around the community.
Absolutely. I have partnered with lots of people in the community to do the work that I do. So.
Well, I know you've been very valuable for our school district and for our students here at Arlington High School and parents.
Thank you.
We're talking today about teen vaping.
Yes.
And as we know across the country, we see it on the news everywhere that it's become a major issue for our students. And so one of the things that we're trying to do here at Arlington High School is help to give both our students and our parents information about this. So I've got a few questions concerning that for you today.
All right.
How is our school, Arlington High School, addressing this trend among adolescents and teens of teen vaping?
Well, the first approach that we wanted to take, number one, is to educate. We know that it really starts at prevention. How do we prevent these things, this trend from continuing to grow within the walls of our school? And so in order to educate students, we have started using the Catch My Breath program. It's a curriculum that's taught through the 9th grade lifetime wellness classes.
So that means all students get it?
Every single student.
Good.
Because we wanted this information to be readily available to all students. So as they're entering high school and learning the ropes as far as what is a block schedule, what does a high school credit mean, they're also learning about this very dangerous trend. And it doesn't just take the approach of educating them about, by saying vaping's bad. It teaches them what are the ingredients in this thing.
Yes.
Because there's so many misconceptions about what it is. I had a student ask me the other day that said, isn't it just plant-based?
Yes,
It's
yeah.
like, no, it's not, And so it teaches them that. But then it also talks about the marketing strategies that these companies are using to target this very vulnerable population. So there are about 4 lessons, and the wellness teachers pace it over the course of about a week and a half to 2 to make sure that students are spending enough time with the content and the materials and it's interactive. And there's also, this year, we're going to start using a pre-test and a post-test so that we can get a better understanding of what they knew beforehand and what they learned.
You kind of measure what they've learned in that curriculum.
Absolutely. So the education piece is one big step that the high school has taken to address it. But then also we know that when it does happen, when we catch a student with these things, that there have to be consequences for it. So the disciplinary approach to that is that the students are assigned to in-school suspension, ISS. But while they're there, we don't want them just to feel like this is just a punitive thing. And so once they're in there, they are then assigned to an online course through Safe Schools. And a lot of, I know our faculty, our staff, we're all familiar with Safe Schools. But what it is it's an online delivery of information. But there's a test, there's a quiz at the end of each section. So the students in this course, there are 9 modules that they have to complete.
Okay.
And there's a quiz at the end of each one. And they have to successfully complete that in order to return to their regular class after their ISS.
So each of those modules, so if they have to complete each module before they go to the next one.
Right.
And I'm assuming I've had an opportunity to look a little bit at some of those modules, but really I think part of it's really focuses, and you talked about this with the first question, is that teens truly don't know what it is that they're putting in their bodies.
Absolutely.
And we're seeing that a lot, and as we've seen across the country in news of the harmful effects that it's having on these teens' health.
Absolutely.
So hopefully these two forms of communication, one on the outset of all students coming in, and then if the students happen to make that choice, then they get a little bit more in depth about that.
Right, they do. And then the third piece to that is the support, because as you know, we're conferencing with students who've been caught with these devices, we're hearing more from them about, you know, what leads you to want to try that in the first place. And so just as initial communication, establishing what the expectations are of completing that course, they sit down and meet with me. And so that one time, well, it starts as a one-time thing, but it can lead to multiple sessions with me. We just kind of start to have those conversations and unpack, okay, what are your reasons why? You know, maybe they were feeling disconnected from the student body and not really finding their place, and they thought that by trying this thing out, you know, I can find my group. And
kind of fit in with a certain group.
Absolutely. And so that gives us an opportunity to say, well, hey, here's a list of clubs that we have here at the school. What are your interests?
Yeah, give them options.
Yeah, so I like having that conversation with them, not only just to give them the information about the Safe Schools course, but to learn a little bit more about them and what's leading them down that path so that we can hopefully turn things around.
Yeah, I think it's probably a big factor is that age-old issue is peer pressure.
Absolutely.
You know, do they do that to try to fit in, and what does that look like? I think giving them options and giving them clubs, I think that's a good way to show them that there's another way to fit in and find their group of their interest is.
Absolutely.
So how are teens accessing these devices? I know these devices, they are, most people can look at one of these and not realize what it is because they blend in with other objects, that everyday objects that we have and we see.
Right, they're designed to look like those everyday objects. The USB drive, the flash drives, that's one of the ones that's so common that they're easily hidden in plain sight. So a lot of students are accessing these, and parents may be surprised to know this if they're getting them online.
Really?
Because, you know, students can easily say, Mom, Dad, I need to order something online that I need for school, and get the credit card or, you know, whatever financial information and purchase it online. And I tried it out just to see how easy it was. The only thing that I had to do was click a simple link that verifies that I'm 21 or older or 18 or older. There's no oversight.
There's no oversight in it.
None at all. And they can purchase it, and then the package arrives, and if the child gets home before their parent, they can easily intercept it, and there you have it. They have exactly what they need to, you know, carry out this dangerous trend. And so that's the really scary part.
Yes.
How do you police something like that?
Right, right.
Very few students, when I talk to them, admit that they're actually walking into these shops to purchase it because they know that they'll get carded, or, you know, they just don't want to risk that.
Right.
So sometimes they have older siblings or older friends who can purchase it for them. So that is another way. And what some students will also do is they'll share devices with one another. So I may not have one. I may have something that a friend gave me, and so I can, you know, use part of your device and put it with mine, and there you have it.
Right.
We can do what we need to do. So it's really hard to control something like that. And the best thing that, you know, adults can do, parents can do, is to monitor those banking statements, online purchases, and then to know what these devices look like. Really educate ourselves on what they look like so that we'll know what to look for.
Right.
And we're not so easily deceived.
Right. Yeah, and that's, as I've talked to some parents, that's what they've asked me. Well, how do I know? How do I know? And so those are good ways. I agree with you. I don't think that many are walking into a store.
Right.
So online purchases has gotten way too easy for lots of things, and obviously this is one of those areas. You've talked a little bit what parents should look for. Based on your work experience with teens, what leads them, and you talked a little bit about wanting to fit in, but what else do you think leads them to want to experiment or explore vaping? I know lots of times we look at commercials and we go by and we see storefronts with them, and they glamorize these things. I'm assuming that that's one of those, but what else leads teens into that?
Right. It's really interesting. So in talking to some of our students who've, gotten into these behaviors, what I found is that you can really kind of categorize them in one of two ways. They're those students who are doing it because they want to fit in. It's the social pleasure, the enjoyment of doing this, and that's one issue within itself,
right.
And there are ways that we can address that. But then there's this other group, and they're saying, hey, I do these things because I'm really struggling with some type of, undesirable emotional or mental health situation, whether it's depression or anxiety, and they believe that vaping or any type of substance use helps alleviate that. And so that's very different. And we have a different approach to that as well. So what I found is, with these two different groups, we really have to listen to what kids are saying. We've got to have conversations with them and not just assume that everyone's doing it just for the thrill of it or just for the fun of it, but that there's some people who are really doing this because they don't have the coping skills, and they're going for the easiest thing. They're going for what their friends have told them, like, you know what, this makes me feel so good. It makes me forget about, any type of pain or distress that I have in my life.
Yeah, and part of that is what the concerning part is because lots of times, or most times I would say, they really don't know what's in, what they're putting in their bodies.
That's true.
Because it may be advertised as one thing, but as we've seen again across the country, and some effects that teens have had, as well as adults, that have been life-threatening. So they can't guarantee what's in what they're actually ingesting.
Right. It's so new that we don't know everything about the effects that it's having on the bodies, not just the body of adults, these developing teens' bodies.
Especially these lungs. I think that's where we're seeing a lot of the health problems with our teens that are vaping, is their lungs.
Right.
You talked a little bit about what parents should look for as far as that they're purchasing, but what are they physically? Should they look for any physical things that is changing in their students at home that may alert them that their student may be vaping?
There are some physical signs that their child might be vaping. One of the things that we've read about several times has been just a persistent cough. And that's really concerning, because there are students who have asthma, who already have respiratory things going on, and then when they start these types of practices, it exacerbates it. So definitely looking out for persistent coughs, and sometimes students may present as having bloodshot eyes. What I've seen from my experience with that is that's typically if they're doing something other than just the nicotine-based vaping. That's if they're moving into things like THC, because essentially it's marijuana. And so some of the same effects that you would see from someone smoking, just traditional marijuana, you'd also see if they've been using that in some type of Juul or dab pen, as they call them.
Yes, and I've learned, unfortunately, a lot about that. You talk about whether what actually is in that cartridge, what's in there, and lots of times what we're beginning to see is that there's illegal substances in there as well. And so, just watching your student, watching to see if they're acting different, if they're coughing, if they're feeling depressed or moody, and those kind of things.
Absolutely. The irritability. And then there are also some behavioral things that you can look out for. So if your child is super anxious as soon as you walk into a room, or if you see them maybe spending more time in the bathroom or in like an area maybe in the garage, and it really doesn't make sense why they're in there for that period of time, there could be something going on. And usually with some of the fruity or the minty kind of vape liquids, you'll smell something after they leave out of that room. And another thing is some of these devices require a charger.
Okay.
And so, a lot of our kids have lots of gadgets.
Yes, they do.
They've got cell phones, they've got iPads.
Everything plugs in.
Absolutely. Well, these devices also have to be charged. So that's something that parents can look out for.
That.
If there's a charger that you don't recognize, it doesn't look like a cell phone charger, but there's something that's plugged into that block there, it could be that they're charging the battery so that they can use that device later. And so just being knowledgeable about what those chargers look like is also a really good thing that parents could do to be more vigilant.
You've really given us today some good information of not only what vaping is, but how can we help deter it, what we're doing at the school level, and what parents can do. We also have an event that's coming up that you have spearheaded for our parents that we're really excited about on January 30th, called Vaping Me Sick event. Will you describe a little bit about what that is and the details of that event? Because obviously we want as many parents there as we can to partner with us in this.
Definitely want parents and students to come out and to learn more about this this trend. Dana Viox, our coordinated school health specialist, she is very passionate about this cause as well, and we have worked together to plan a night where parents and students can get this information about vaping. We have a guest speaker who's coming in, Dr. Sanders from Le Bonheur. She's a pediatric pulmonologist, and so we're excited to have her to come in and speak from a health perspective about what exactly this does to the body, what it does to the lungs, and to talk about the damaging effects there. And then we will have a panel discussion afterwards, because as we've talked about this morning, the fact that it's a multifaceted issue. Mental health, we can't ignore the fact that it ties into these addictive behaviors that students are developing once they start using these things on a consistent basis. So we'll have a local mental health service provider who'll be here to serve on the panel, and then also a representative from the Shelby County Sheriff's Office to talk about the legal implications of this, and to speak to the community as well about the trends that we're seeing amongst teens, not just with vapes, but any type of drug use. And then we'll have someone from the district office to talk a little bit more about the district's approach and our plans to continue to address this trend.
Yes. Well, very good. And thank you for all your work, not only around vaping, but all the supports that you offer for our students, their parents, and our community. So thank you very much.
I'm happy to do it.
I'm happy that as we continue to look at these issues and others, we'll continue to partner with our parents. In a little bit, on a lighter news, I want to give out a few shout outs to our outstanding students across the district. Congratulations to our 75 middle and high school students who were recently selected for the All West Band or Orchestra. These students competed with the best musicians in West Tennessee and will now present the region in February at the Cannon Center for the Performing Arts in Memphis. AMS had a very impressive as well. 30 students make the All West Band, more than any other middle school from the region. Those aren't the only fine arts students impressing. In the visual arts department, AHS had a huge showing at the West Tennessee Regional Art Exhibition and the Scholastic Art Awards. Between these two shows, our students won a total of 75 awards, including Best in Drawing, Photography, and Sculpture, 11 gold keys, 14 silver keys, and 17 honorable mentions. Congratulations to all these talented students. That will do it now for our show today. Please join us next time as we go in focus.